What's up guys, and welcome to another video. Today we are in a 2018 Porsche 991.2 generation 911 Carrera T. This car has an MSRP of just over $100,000, and essentially what the Carrera T is sort of a combination of a base 911 with a lot of the performance goodies from the Carrera GTS model. So we have the base 911 Carrera's 3-liter twin turbocharged flat 6 engine, when stock made 370 horsepower and 331 pound-feet of torque. Now Dave, the owner of this car, has thrown on a Litchfield tune via a Cobb access port, and that pushes the horsepower and torque figure of this car up to 500 horsepower and 500 pound-feet. Now that's also due to some aftermarket headers that he's installed. The only other major modification is he's installed the DSC Sport V3.1 Controller, and what that does is it retunes the adaptive suspension to feel a little bit more compliant. But otherwise, what the Carrera T provides is the PASM Sport adaptive suspension from the Carrera GTS, the shorter final drive, a mechanical limited slip differential, Sport Chrono, and Porsche Sports exhaust, all as standard. But it's more than just those things from the GTS model that are included here. We also have some weight saving measures, including the Sportex seats, reduced sound insulation, and thinner side and rear glass. Now what that amounts to is only a weight savings of around 44 pounds, but hey, the car only weighs around 3,200 pounds, so even 44 pounds is a decent chunk of that. We have this electronic e-brake, which again, I'm just not a fan of. Oh, and Dave has also installed a numeric short shifter. So 500 horsepower, 500 pound-feet of torque, limited slip diff, rear-wheel drive, manual transmission. This should be a pretty exciting drive. Oh, 500 horsepower twin turbo is no joke. Wow. Fast car indeed. It feels more accelerative than a GT3, that's for sure. And that's because of the mid-range torque we have here. But right away, I'm noticing very little turn-in understeer compared to older generation 911s, like the 997 and prior. This car feels a lot more neutral on turn-in. And of course, that's largely because, despite the 911 being rear engine, over the years, they've moved the engine closer and closer to the middle of the car. Some nice crackles and pops from this exhaust. Such a sharp front end. I've been driving a lot of older 911s recently, and this feels like a totally different beast on turn-in. You can really trust the front end to not wash out. Now let's see about this 500 horsepower here. Impressive, very impressive. This is a new 911 experience for me, having only driven naturally aspirated models or actual 911 turbos in the past, or the GT2. But this smaller displacement 3-liter twin turbo engine is interesting. It doesn't feel the same as those prior gen turbo models because this has better throttle response, more low-end torque, and immediate response. Now, the owner did tell me that the Litchfield tune did contribute to quite a bit of that response, as did the headers. But all in all, it's definitely a much more responsive feeling engine. But you still get some of those characteristic turbo whooshes and whistles. And the turbos still do take a noticeable amount of time to spool up. It's not truly instant like an NA engine. So there's the 911's inherent balance coming into play. Coming out of corners, being super aggressive on the throttle, the car still does want to push ever so slightly. But I just hopped out of a 718 Cayman GTS, and that felt a lot more neutral. This car does still have a hint of that 911-y feel to it. This car almost has too much power for this road. I'm curious what this felt like when it was stock with just 370 horsepower. easy to heel toe. Throttle response is definitely good enough for quick fire downshifts. Those crackles and pops from the exhaust when I lift off the throttle. Childish, but hey, I'm not complaining. It adds some excitement to the drive. The suspension's really quite good. It handled that crest back there no problem. I think the DSC Sport Controller really does do a great job at improving the already pretty good stock suspension of a lot of these Porsche adaptive suspension systems without actually adding any hardware. One more straight line pull. Makes a pretty good sound. Nowhere near as exciting as the howl of a naturally aspirated flat six from a GT product, but hey, the extra torque and tunability of the turbo motor is much appreciated. Wow, what an impressive machine. I think the way I sum up this car is that it's a very impressive feat of engineering. It's not necessarily a car that really stirs my soul with the way it drives, the way it sounds, or even necessarily the way it looks. But there's just no arguing with what Porsche has been able to accomplish. I mean, this car is so freaking fast and so capable, and it does all of that just so effortlessly. That's the thing that's super impressive about it. With the performance goodies from the GTS model on the Carrera T, plus the Litchfield tune, the headers, and this DSC Sport remap of the suspension, this car really feels like a tuner car for discerning adults. Let's put it that way. From the outside, it looks pretty much stock because it is stock from the outside, but the way it drives definitely gives you a little bit of that taste of the old school tuner feel. And that's made possible by this 3-liter turbocharged engine. Of course, there are inherent downsides to turbocharged engines. If you like high revs, if you like induction note, if you like a linear power curve, NA all day. But the engine in this car actually strikes a good balance between the outrageous, hard to control turbo engines of the old 911s and the NA engines. But like I said, it's not a car that stirs my soul. Not in the same way that a Cayman GTS 4.0 does, or a 911 GT3, but that being said, it's still a very enjoyable car to drive, and it's plenty comfortable as well. This interior is really nice, very high quality, and absolutely fitting of a 6-figure car. The suspension is very compliant. NVH levels overall are pretty low, but due to the lower sound insulation in this Carrera T, if you're going over a rough surface or a surface with a lot of loose gravel, be prepared for a very noisy ride. But that's just the trade-off that you're gonna have to accept for those 44 pounds of weight savings. Let me know what you think of the 991.2 generation Carrera T. Does this model actually make sense to you? Does it appeal to you? Does it make sense to pay nearly Carrera S money for a car that has things taken away from it for weight savings, plus some of the goodies thrown in from the GTS model? Let me know your thoughts. Thank you for watching as always, and I'll see you guys in the next video.